Next topic is spontaneity. To understand this topic, let's go back to the first law of thermodynamics. The first law of thermodynamics tells us the relationship between the heat absorbed and the work done by or on the system. But it does not tell us about the direction of the heat flow. And we know that the direction of the heat is unidirectional. It is generally from the higher temperature to the lower temperature. Now all the naturally occurring processes, whether they are chemical or they are physical processes, they tend to proceed spontaneously in any one particular direction. Let's take the example of a falling stone. Whenever a stone is released from some height, it never goes up in the sky. Rather, it always comes down. Similarly, when water is water is released from some height, it again goes down. When we take two bodies at different temperature, then the heat always flows from a warmer body to the colder body. All these examples, they suggest that these processes, they are taking by themselves. They are spontaneous in nature. And there is one particular direction in which these processes takes place. If you want to reverse these processes, then definitely some sort of external agency or external energy is required. For example, if you want to throw the stone up, it will not go up just by releasing it. We have to throw it. We have to apply force on it. Similarly, if we have carbon dioxide gas and we want the coal from it, we want the oxygen from it, then it will not break down into carbon and oxygen of its own. Right? So we can say that these processes, the breaking of the carbon dioxide into carbon and oxygen, this is not a spontaneous process. So it means that for any spontaneous process, there is some driving force behind it. Now again consider the example of a falling stone. When the stone falls, we know that the potential energy decreases. When the heat is transferred from a hot body to the cold body, then the difference in the heat energies between these two bodies decreases. So we can say that a decrement in the enthalpy could be a possible criteria for the spontaneity. But let's try to understand it, whether just the decrease in enthalpy of a reaction is the only criteria for spontaneity. We will understand it with the help of the two diagrams. In the first diagram, we see that there is an enthalpy change for the exothermic process. In the exothermic process, we know that the heat energy is released. It means that the reactant have more energy, whereas the product have lesser energy. And when the reactant changes into the product, then the amount of energy is reduced and it is released. So we can say there is a decrease in the energy or the enthalpy content of the reaction, and therefore exothermic processes are spontaneous. But what about the endothermic reactions? For the endothermic reactions, the reactant have lesser energy, but the product have more energy. And yet we find in nature that many of the endothermic processes, they are spontaneous. So now can we say that merely decrement in the enthalpy content is the criteria for the spontaneity? No, we cannot say it. The decrease in the enthalpy may be a contributory factor for the spontaneity, but it is not for all the cases. Now talking about the speed of the spontaneous reaction. Are the spontaneous reaction always quick in nature, or they may be slow? So you will notice that the spontaneous processes, they may be fast or they may be slow. example of fast spontaneous process is when you take the sodium metal and you keep it in the atmosphere, it will spontaneously catch fire within no time. So it is a very quick reaction. But if you take hydrogen gas and oxygen gas together in a vessel, then you will find that the formation of water will take place. However, it will take years time. So in all, we can say that the spontaneous reaction may be fast or it may be slow. Any two gases therefore can combine to form a product, but the rate of the spontaneity would differ from equation to equation.